Sex. It's a topic that we all love to talk about. Not really. We love to, I mean, think about it. Most humans have sex. Most humans enjoy sex, but most humans are also socially, we're afraid or not able to really talk about it. Why can't we talk about it? Why can't we be specific about what we like, what we don't like, and why? What is this big taboo? Where are we going to find how to talk about it responsibly, I guess? We'll think of a different word. My guest today, Kim Sekleski, is an author, a prolific author. She's written an amazing book called The Triskelion Door. She also writes children's books, and she's got a very passionate social responsibility aspect to what she's doing that ties that together, and that's a stretch. So we're going to cover more about that. Let me introduce my guest today, Kim Sekleski. Kim, how are you today?
Good morning, Doug. I'm great. How are you?
Doing great, thank you. So let's talk a little bit about the big, broad topic here so we can get people to go, wait, you're right, how come I can't talk about it? And then I want to hear about your book and why you wrote it. So
okay.
Yeah.
I found that in my own journey of learning about sex, and I'm in my 40s. So for those of us that are in our 40s and older, our parents didn't know how to educate us properly, or, the educational system wasn't responsible. And to some respect, it still isn't responsible. There's a cultural expectation that responsibility comes from multiple areas, and it's up to us to figure out where to find them for us, because every individual is different for many different reasons, for our upbringing, our genetics, our religious beliefs, etc. And in order to bridge that gap, there has to be a way for us to do it in a way that doesn't make people feel ashamed or not enough, not heard, not seen, or unloved. And when I started to research things, it really started when I was trying to educate my own kids. I've got teenage daughters, and when they started asking questions a lot younger than I was anticipating, I felt I needed to be that responsible parent. And the whole family has a different dynamic on who's responsible for educating, and part of our family felt it was up to the school. Part of the family felt that it was up to the church or the religion choice, and others felt that it was up to how they learned through their environment. I think that if authors in general are going to put literature out into the world, it's also our responsibility to teach in a safe way that's educational, that's correct. There's always a time and a place for something that isn't, to expose different things of interest, but I think that the main foundation of it is to be correct. And that's where I come into play. Everybody.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There's the health benefits, there's the social mores, there's the intimacy of relationships. There's so many different ways to look at the topic. And I'm just trying to think myself, why do some people are comfortable talking about it? Like, I was very comfortable giving specific ideas and thoughts when I talked with my son, but not with my daughter. My dad was a dentist, and he would talk about it very clinically, and in a fun way, of course, as well. But a large percentage of our population, maybe it's indoctrinated from olden days, whatnot, where you don't talk about this. And I'm not exactly sure why. I know I've brought up a few times with some of my family and friends, and I get the look. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, you don't want to talk about that? Okay, no problem. So why do you think, number one, the subject that makes us all happy is so taboo?
I think because we feel bad. Somewhere deep down, it makes us feel dirty, and it makes us feel bad. And I'm not sure where that really stems from. And I think maybe possibly, when we're first discovering ourselves and we're touching our bodies and someone's going, nope, don't do that. Well, because you don't do that in the living room when you're 4 years old in front of your grandparents at Christmas Day because it feels good, because you don't know the difference, right? So right from day one, we're told, don't pick your nose, don't touch yourself. And we start to develop that identity of, I can't touch myself, even if it feels good, because nobody said, this is where you touch yourself. This is how you touch yourself. This is why you touch yourself. And then
this is how often.
This is how often, right? And it's not until much later that, you're watching the Fuzzy Channel at 11 o'clock at night at a friend's house and you're going, what is this? And why aren't we talking about this? Or you're sneaking a magazine, or you're looking at something online, or you're overhearing a conversation, or you get your hands on a book in the library one afternoon and you go, what am I reading? And why aren't we talking about this? And I need a book club.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And for me, that's how it happened. I wasn't until I was in my 30s, and I was already married and had kids, and I stumbled across erotica and went, what in the heck am I reading? And why did it take 8 chapters for me to find this?
Yeah. Right.
You know?
Which brings us, speaking of books and chapters, this brings us to your book, which I love the way you positioned it with this, you know, it's, how can I say it? It doesn't look like an erotic novel, right?
Right.
It looks, you know, and tell us about the title and how you chose that cover to make people feel better publicly to be reading it, I guess.
So I'm a research person, and I always say in quotations, I'm doing something for research. That's legit.
Yeah.
I'm constantly researching because I'm constantly developing, and I'm very curious. I always am learning. And when I started to research the cover of the book, I actually went into bookstores. I had a look around at Costco. I had a look around at Walmart. And I started to ask women about the books that they were choosing. And if it had a cherry with a pair of lips on it, they were more reluctant to pick it up because I automatically knew what they had in their cart.
Yep.
Now you're feeling ashamed. Now you're turning it over. Now you're putting it under a sweater. Now it's under your arm. Now you're getting your sister to order it for you online, and don't tell dad about it. And I think that that's where we need to stop. Reading is sexy. Education is sexy. Knowing what you want is sexy. And we should be able to talk about sex that way, with that much respect and that much power and that much self-love. And I think that there's a responsibility for us to learn all of these things through fiction, because majority of the books are fiction, maybe based on some reality. But like, I mean, now everybody is reading it. And like, I mean, there's men that are reading it going, I need to be doing this. Well, yeah, why not? Why can't you be reading it and enjoying it and learning it? Because if the only way we're going to be learning right now are through these books, then we have a call to action to make these books so much better so that your sex lives are better. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? So the Triskelion Door is a combination of things. I'm not going to ruin what exactly it is, but it's a little bit of secret society meets a little inner dialogue. The main character, the main characters are a young couple developing their premarital life, discovering who they are, and in doing so, opening every single door in their inner world that meets their outer world and parallel to who they are and where they're going as a couple in a safe way that doesn't make them feel any less than who they are as an individual and where they're going as a couple.
Right.
So my cover is easy for grandma. It's also easy for you. It's also easy for the 15-year-old who is ready to read that, to be educated. It's safe. So it has a little bit of mystery to it. It's got a little bit of depth to it, and it's a safe cover to have so you're not embarrassed. I don't want you to be embarrassed reading something wonderful.
Right. Yes, I love that. So that brings me to my big question, because you've written some wonderful children's books. You've got this erotic novel, and there's actually a correlation here, which took me like a few minutes to bridge it, and I love it. So talk to us about what it means to produce an erotic book. Okay, great. It's good for scintillating, thoughts in our head. Great. But there's a deeper message you want to get out there. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. When I started writing, I'm very much connected to our community and charity.
Right.
And I was like, how can I use this book to educate and to bring awareness? And each of my books is connected to 2 or 3 different charities. This is a part of a trilogy. So the Triskelion Door is a 3-book trilogy. The first book is coming out shortly. And I've connected the awareness to this to human trafficking. Inside human trafficking, more or less, is sex trafficking. It's not just sex trafficking anymore, because people are being used for multiple things. And there's going to be characters in this book that are going to experience this. They're going to be exposed to it. They're going to heal from it. They're going to be guided through it. And they're going to be brought through it from one spectrum to the other. You're going to see bits and pieces of it in each. You're going to see it in all. But there's also other things that are also going to come through in this book. But that's the main one. I feel that I live in a hub. where I live in Ontario, Canada, is a large population of human trafficking. And it's something that isn't talked about enough. It's a behind the scenes, hush, quiet. We don't see it in the news, and yet it's there. People go missing all the time. We don't know about it. And there needs to be more awareness brought to the surface for it to figure out a way to bridge that gap. And I've talked about a lot of things in this book, because if you think about, if we have a healthy sexual relationship with ourselves and other people, these things probably wouldn't be as popular as they are.
And that's the twist that I want to get people's heads wrapped around. Because normally you would think, oh, you're putting gasoline on the flames of naughtiness, which is going to create more people that want to do bad things, quote unquote bad things, and encourage the worst thing, right? Sex trafficking. But your perspective is just the exact opposite. And I think that's really interesting and refreshing. How do you position that in the book or in your marketing so that people understand that? This is not to make you feel worse. This is to make you feel open so you don't go down the dark side.
It's something I'm learning as well right now, because I'm still in developing stages of that. And, I've talked to therapists about it, and I've talked to doctors about it, because I want to make sure that I'm also sensitive to people who have gone through that experience who may read this book and be triggered by it. And I don't want that for them. They need to know that they're important and they're valued, and that the experience that they've had is not okay, And I think that, if we talk about, let's say, a black coffee, well, people know what a black coffee is. Now, if you go and you add cream to that coffee, we're calling it something else. Now it's a regular. Okay, you go and you add something else to that, it becomes a double-double. You add a little foam to that, now it becomes a latte. So if we're going to talk about sex and procreation, we might as well talk about all the other things that bring you to the point where now you're wanting to kidnap somebody and have them in your basement for pleasure. And that's the reality of what happens. And we don't need to be having that happen, but we need people to know that that happens, It's not just something that's seen in movies or in literature. And what we need to do is expose the reality of what's going on out there and make people aware that, it's okay to have fantasy. Have a fantasy. Talk to your partner about that, or find a way to execute that without being embarrassed to say, hey, can you put a collar on? Can you do your hair this way? Can you wear a sexy mask for dinner? Can you try this thing for me, please? And not be afraid to ask. And that's where a lot of literature is going to teach people to say, hey, you know what? Let's have a conversation. The very foundation of a lot of erotica reading is communication. If you don't learn to communicate with your partner properly daily and learn to ask for the coffee that you like to drink and not be ashamed of how you want it, you're not going to be able to ask for it in the bedroom. And that's what erotica should be. And that's what my erotica is going to be. And if it's not, I'm going to make it that way, because you're going to demand it from me.
Put a pin in that one. That's perfect. I'll fork in it, whatever. That was really, really succinctly stated. Like, if you can't talk about coffee, how can you possibly talk about, things that are, fundamentally important to your health and well-being and relationship and love, for God's sakes.
Yes.
And having those non-judgmental conversations, I'm guessing you gotta, put some guardrails on this. Say, listen, I want to talk about something. No is okay. I don't want to talk about it. Might be okay, but I really want to just share some ideas and get your feedback on it, right? I mean,
absolutely.
And other areas of the world, business, I'm going to go right to, is like, we always like, hey, I'm going to try something, see if it works, right? I'm going to try this marketing plan. I'm going to hire this employee. I'm going to start this business. Most of the time it fails and we don't look down upon it. But if I say, hey, put a collar on or whatever it is, and you don't like it, okay.
Take it off.
It's not going to ruin my life or my day. It's a no means no. It's pretty simple.
Right.
Or yes, let's try it.
Right.
Same result.
And there's a lot of educational books out there. I've read a few myself, and they're fantastic. I actually started reading one that started this whole writing process. It was an exercise. Dr. Emily Morse, she's fantastic. And there was an exercise in there, and it had 69 questions for those of you that know the zodiac sign, because I'm a Cancer. Anyways, there were some tough questions in there. And I started asking them to myself. And it started from, what food turns you on? And not in a way that it's weird, but in a way that makes your mouth feel good, makes your senses feel good. If you're going to have a steak, why are you going to McDonald's when you want to have a steak? You're going to the Keg. So ask for a steak, right? So
Yeah.
talk about it.
Right.
And so I got to about 15 questions, and there was a question in there I couldn't answer. And I was like, I got to write about this. I got to flesh this out. And the second
Mm,
I started doing that, I started writing, and I was like, I can write a book about this one specific
nice.
topic. And so I thank her
Uh-huh.
because she's amazing at being able to educate people and get you outside of your traditional or non-traditional thought process around sex,
Right.
because we all think erotica. We don't think about the cuddling. We don't think about the communication. We don't think about the intimacy, all of the
Hmm.
innuendos daily, the sexting that you're learning or not learning, the things
Yeah.
that go on, the lingerie that we're wearing, or the way that we're doing something
Hmm.
else. There's so many things that are tied to the entire industry that we don't really think about. The fact that there's a whole industry based on pleasure, that people are afraid to go into a store. They're going in a back door. And these places provide a
Yeah.
back door for you to go into because you're embarrassed to go in
Yeah.
there. And that shouldn't
Yeah.
be a thing. You should be able to go and buy something that brings you pleasure the same way you go and buy shoes or a handbag that bring you pleasure. You're getting the same hit anyways, on one level or another.
I mean, yeah, ice cream and sex. What's the difference, right? I get that myself. I'm like, yeah, they both make me feel good, right?
Right.
One's healthier, I think, and it's not the ice cream, but
Yeah.
that's just me.
Depends on if it's in a cone or in a cup.
Everything in moderation, including moderation, as my son says. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then just to go off on a side tangent, I'm really curious about your children's books and how that also might relate to your social causes. So, tell us a little bit about those.
I'm writing a 5-book series. First one, I don't know if you can see behind me. That's the frame for it.
Ah.
It's called Autumn Anderson and the Quest for Keys. It's available on Amazon.
Uh-huh.
That's I
Hmm.
actually have a pen name.
Right.
There
Hmm.
we go. Anyway, that's
Yeah.
a 5-book series, and it's going to touch on a lot of different topics as well. It's also connected to
Hmm.
the Canadian Association for Children's Literacy, the National Grief
Hmm.
Awareness, and through the Season Center here in Barrie.
Nice.
Children's grief, dementia, loss, change, development, conversation, quest, and
Hmm.
exploration. So this 5-book
Hmm.
series is going to tap into something a little bit different, as well as, connected to the other causes that I do believe in and that I am passionate about. I'm that author.
Hmm.
If someone's asking of something and it's not available, I will do my best to find that. I don't know everything. I don't claim to know everything. I'm learning as I'm writing. But I love to write. I'm very much a fictional author. I've always got characters
Yeah.
living in my head. At one point I felt
Hmm.
mental. I now know I'm not. I'm just creative, and that's where they live. And they are constantly testing me and going, this shirt would look really good on, or this ice cream cone would be really good, or this store would be awesome to go to, or put this
Yeah.
costume on, Kim, you need to go and check something out, because I do that. I'm out in the
Hmm.
community in character suits, volunteering as well. I volunteer for a lot of different things. It's
Uh-huh.
where I sit. So I'm one of those people. I prefer to wear a hat every day because this hair gets a little crazy. So people find me in a hat, and if I don't have it on, they're questioning my mental health now. And they're like, "Why
Hmm.
don't you have your hat on?" And I'm like, "Well, I wanted to stand out a little today, do my hair, wash it, or whatever." But there's a responsibility with writing, and
Hmm.
I'm interactive, doing a bunch of things that are coming up with kids to get them reading and writing and developing their own writing skills, and directing them down that path. The same with any other book that I'm writing. I work with an amazing team, working writers, Crowe in Ontario,
Yep.
and I've got some
Right.
great publishers as well. I took it
Hmm.
seriously. I wasn't sure what I was going to do at first, and this is a bigger calling, so I'm taking it on.
I love it. Now, when we first met, I'm going to find out more about Kim for a second here. First met, you said your primary business is people pay you to take their own clothes off and give it to you.
But
So, do you want to tell us more about not your day job, but your background, about how you got started?
my day job, I sure. So I'm actually a developmental service worker by trade. I work with adults with special needs. That's where my heart sits. Fundamentally in housing, and with the Down Syndrome Association, I also coach for the Special Olympics snowshoe team. So I do a lot of stuff behind the scenes that drives my passion. I'm not my day job. I'm not my 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I'm who I am outside of that. And people who ask me what I do for a living, I find they just don't know how to reach me, and they don't know how to find the commonality. So yes, I'm a professional at getting people to willingly take their suits and dresses and wedding gowns and stuff off, hand them to me, and then come back later and pay me to get them back. I'm very involved in the industry in Canada as vice president for the Dry Cleaning Association, very proudly for the last 24 years. And I can talk clothes to you all day long, and I know you're dirty everything. Everything. Every dry cleaner knows you're dirty, absolutely everything, and we are very proud to look after everything. And that's another thing. People get embarrassed and they come in and they're like, "So I have this pair of pants," and I'm like, "Yeah, you don't have to tell me about it." I know, and I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think it's great that you're liberated enough to have the balls to tell me what's going on. Just don't throw them at me.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so I kind of hover around there, and I love to educate in that industry as well. I think that there's a lot to be said for where our clothing is coming from, the chemicals that are in it, what it's doing to our body from that standpoint, and where we're going as an industry in the next 100 years. We've been around for almost 200, and where the economies are going to start taking us. And so it's scary. It's a little scary out there. But yeah, I like to do a bunch of things. I'm a buffet, I guess you could say.
You're a buffet.
I'm a
Leonardo da
buffet.
Vinci, from children's books to dry clean to erotic novels. What drives you, Kim? What gets you up in the morning and keeps you up at night?
I don't really know. I just have this, I don't know what to call it really, an inner wisdom. I just get up and I drive. I move forward every day. I've been through a lot of stuff like many people, and I've learned from it. And as it throws itself at me, I just kind of go, what can I do with this? And lost both my parents during the pandemic. So very close together, watched my mom go with dementia. And funny story, there's a sex story in there, and I'm not going to say his name, but in the 70s, my mom dated a very famous hockey player, and with her dementia, the doctor would phone me on occasion, and she'd say, your mom's talking about sex with so-and-so. Is this a legit thing? And I'm like, she has no idea who I am, but she remembers that. She's fine. And we let her live there, and I had to learn that was where she was, and it was very difficult. But yeah, when my parents passed, it'll be 3 years this year for my mom. I started writing, and that's where the children's books were developed because we also don't talk about death. And in learning that we don't talk about death, we don't talk about life. And if we're not talking about our life, and what starts life is sex. So let me bring it back to you. If we're not talking about sex, we're not talking about living, we're not talking about living our life, and we're not talking about the stories of our life at the end of our life. And who are we remembered by? The very people that we had the impact by. So my drive is to help people live their best life. At the end of the day, I want you to live your best life because that's what I try and do every single day, whether it be writing, whether it be volunteering, whether it be working, whether it be wearing a costume, whether it be telling a dirty joke, because I love to do those, whether it's saying the F word too much or whatever. My drive is to help people live a better life. At the end of the day, that's what it is. I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm a motivational person. I live with intention and authenticity. I don't need to tell you how to do it. I'd like to show you how to do it, and I'd like to bring you on the journey with me to do it. There's a difference in that. And if you want to write your story, I want to help you write it. It's easy. For me.
Full circle.
For me, it's easy, but yeah.
From the creating the thing in the cradle to the grave. I love it. That's really, really, really well said. We're going to end on that. How do people get a hold of you?
Well, I like a handshake, so come and find me and shake my hand, and you know where I'm at. I'm a handshake all day long. But you can find me at Grateful for Living on Instagram right now. You'll see me with it's a black and white picture of my hair, but it's a grateful with a 4 living. There is a website in development for the children's book series. You can find me there as well. But Kimber D. Gorton is my pen name. It came from a combination of family lineage. And I kind of like to have a life separate from that because I'm known for other things. So, but yeah, so that's that. But yeah, Grateful for Living, you can find me, or you can reach out to Doug, or you can contact working writers as well, Marcy and Alex, and tell them you want to write a book, that you want to meet me because I'm on their classes all the time, and I'm happy to give you feedback. It's not a secret. I want to help you. So you're welcome to do that as well.
Outstanding.
Unless you've got dirty
if you're watching this on the recording, there's specific contact information below here. If you're watching it live, no. But recording wise, it's all below here. You can check it out. So Wow, Kim, what a fantastic conversation today. Thank you so much for joining
You're
us.
welcome.
Super appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate you
You
too,
bet.
Doug.
Okay, you bet. Have a good
You
day.
as well.